Hello one more time. In this video, as you saw in the title of the video, we're gonna be making the retopology for the hands of our character. And this is gonna be the last step of this process of retopology. It's gonna be the same thing as the last videos, as we did with the head, arms, legs, torso, everything. It's gonna be basically the same idea, and we're gonna be basically creating a new mesh with a nice flow, but with fewer polygons. So let's get started. Once again, as you can see, I have some references for the hands because this time it's gonna be the topology for the hands, which is gonna be something like this. And I recommend you to get references from Google as well. Just search the same thing, 3D hands topology, and then you're gonna find a lot. So let's get started. I'm gonna be selecting the mesh, the new mesh with the retopology and the old model, which was the first sculpture. I'm gonna select the retopology mesh, press tab and go into the edit mode. I'm gonna select this whole loop on the wrist, press Ctrl plus, Ctrl I, 8. Now we have this little part of the wrist and we're gonna start creating the hands. So I'm gonna start creating the hand. I'm gonna grab a reference here. I want mine to be something more simple like this and not something too hard like this or even like this. I want something a bit more simple like this and maybe a bit like this. So I'm gonna be starting by the thumb and it's gonna be the same process. I'm gonna select one vertex. I'm gonna turn on this little option here, snap. Select one vertex and press Shift D. So I'm gonna duplicate this and I'm gonna be starting by the thumb. So I'm gonna be creating something kind of like a ring around this area, which is gonna be this one here, something like that. And then we're gonna basically be creating the fingers. So for that, I'm gonna be creating a loop around here by pressing E and moving around, just like we did with the neck. E, extrude and move around. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. I'm gonna adjust it, of course. Same thing here, 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 and here I'm gonna be closing by pressing F. And now from here, I'm gonna be selecting one vertex and then I'm gonna extrude it all the way to the nails. And then I'm gonna be doing the same thing with the other vertices. And then I'm gonna be closing them by pressing F and creating faces in between. Remember, we have to make sure we have the same amount of vertices so we can make clean faces like this, 4 by 4. And it's gonna be basically that. Now, having this little part finished, we're gonna keep doing the same thing until we get to the nails. Now, from here, we're gonna be selecting this whole loop. I'm gonna turn off this little option. I'm gonna press E, extrude, and then I'm gonna scale it down, move around in a way that is similar to the original sculpture. And then I'm gonna be closing this whole hole. That sounds weird. Just by pressing F. So I'm gonna select this little edge here. I'm gonna press F, 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 F. And now it's closed. I'm gonna be moving this around to get something a bit more smoother. And then we're gonna be creating another detail for the thumb because we're not finished with it. I'm gonna press K, select this little dot up here and then this little dot down here and create a cut in between them. And then I'm gonna be pressing Enter to make it something like real, you know. I'm gonna select these little edges in the middle and I'm gonna be moving around like this. Same thing for this little one here. Move like this. And as we can see, It is not completely accurate to the first sculpture, so we're gonna have to adjust it, but that's not gonna be a big deal. Gonna select this and then just gonna place them around. Now I'm gonna be creating one more loop cut in between because we gotta have a little curve right here in the middle. So Ctrl R, enter, and I'm gonna move around, scale it up until it looks similar to the first sculpture. And of course, I'm doing this based on my art style. Once again, you gotta do this based on your art style. The art style that you got to create your 3D character. So I think this is looking good for the thumb. And now I'm gonna be creating one more detail. As we can see, we have these little rings around here. And we gotta do the same thing because it's where, like, how can I say? It's gonna be the joints. And if it has more loop cuts around the joints, it's gonna be making things easier to create the rig in the future. So I'm gonna be selecting this and maybe, yeah, just this, and then Ctrl B. I'm gonna increase the value just a bit, like 2 or 3. And here I'm gonna create a loop cut and do the same thing. For the thumb, this is kinda good, at least for now. I'm gonna activate this little option here, proportional editing, and I'm gonna move around just a bit, like this. And now we can keep doing the other part of the hand until we get to a point where these vertices here are going to match with the wrist. So for that, I'm gonna select one here and extrude, and then press F, selecting this one, and just create a face in between them like this. We are not going to be closing the whole hand right now, but I want to do it just to have a little idea. I'm gonna create one loop cut right here and move it around like this. And from here, we're gonna be creating one little detail, which is gonna be this little bump of the hand. I am not sure if this amount of vertex is going to be enough or not, so we're gonna have to check it once I finish it. I'm gonna create one more loop cut right here, and then I'm gonna be closing this by creating a face. And this edge here I'm gonna delete, so I'm gonna press delete, dissolve edges. Now we can close it in a cleaner way. Now we're gonna keep doing the same thing for the rest of the hand. So I'm gonna do this little part right here, this little blue part. And for that, I'm gonna be using this as a reference. And it's gonna be basically the same thing as we did with the thumb. We're gonna be creating a ring around it, and then create faces and make sure it matches with the rest of the hand. So I'm gonna start by this little dot here, and I'm gonna create a ring around it until it matches with this one. And then we're gonna be able to close it all, create the fingers, and then polish it just a bit. But for now, I'm gonna be creating one more loop for the wrist so I can make sure that I can align all of this easily in the future. So I'm gonna be just following the same amount of vertices and create something like a ring or like a loop around the wrist, until one point where I can close it and get something smooth, just like this. So, as I said, I am finished with this little part, which is the loop around the palm. And from this loop, we're gonna start to create the fingers. So I'm gonna be selecting the whole loop, and I'm gonna be pressing E to extrude and move it almost around the fingers. And from here, we're gonna be able to start creating the fingers. But first, we have to adjust it according to the first sculpture because, well, this is not looking exactly like the sculpture, you know, so we gotta adjust it by using the snap tool and just moving the vertices around. It's super simple. I don't have much to explain here because it's literally just that. We gotta move around, create loops, and make sure it matches with the first sculpture. So from here, we're gonna start creating the fingers. It's gonna be the same thing as we did with the thumb. We're gonna be creating something kind of like a ring around the finger, and then we're gonna make sure that it comes all the way down to the nails, and then we're gonna be creating a bridge between the fingers and the palm in a nice looking way, based on the references. So it's gonna be something like this area here. And for that, I'm gonna be starting by the index finger because, well, just because. I'm gonna select this little edge, I'm gonna duplicate it, move it down like this, and then I'm gonna extrude by pressing E to the middle of this little joint, same thing down here, and now to the part of the nails. And from here, we're gonna be creating a loop around the finger. Same thing here, and then we're gonna be closing it by pressing F and basically repeat the same thing for the other fingers. But I have a little hack so you don't have to create all the other fingers from scratch. Let's first finish this little one here. Always make sure that it matches with the other verses up there because with that we can create cleaner faces like this. And now from here, I'm gonna be creating one little face here. F, select this edge, press F, 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 F. Same thing on the other side, F. Oh, I gotta select here. Same thing on the other side, F. And we are not going to be closing this on this part because we have to have a transition. And we're gonna be creating the transition later. Now from here, I'm gonna select this little dot and this one. I'm gonna delete it, vertices. I'm gonna select this whole loop here and I'm gonna extrude it all the way down to the nails. Extrude, move around like this and scale it down. Make sure it aligns with the first model like this. Rotate and move around. Extrude, scale. And to close it, we're gonna be making the same thing as we did with the thumb. We're gonna extrude, scale it down, move to the tip like this. Make sure it aligns with the first sculpture. And we're simply going to create more faces in between and close it. I'm gonna select this little edge, press F, 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 F. I'm gonna press K, select this dot, all the way down to this one. Press enter, select this edge, this one, and move them down according to the first sculpture. Same thing for this little dot right here. And simply adjust it. Now we have the first finger finished. I'm gonna select this whole loop of faces, press Ctrl plus on numpad, Ctrl plus, Ctrl plus, Ctrl plus, and with the whole finger selected, I'm gonna press Shift D, duplicate, rotate, And we're gonna be placing it at the same place of the other fingers. We just have to rotate, move, and rescale according to the first sculpture. Instead of having to create dot by dot once again, we're just gonna be duplicating, and later we're gonna be creating a nice transition from here to here. So let's get started. I'm gonna scale it, rotate, make sure you align from the other views too, like here. Scale it just a bit more, and I think this is enough. Yeah, it looks really good. Gonna do the same thing for the other fingers. Okay, for now, this is looking enough. And now we have to create a transition in between them. So I'm gonna start by the middle finger. I'm gonna select this little dot here. I'm gonna be turning on the snap tool. And I'm gonna move around just a bit. Select this little dot here, this other one, this, and press F. Same thing for the other one here. F. We are not going to close it right now, so I'm gonna be doing the same thing for the other fingers. Select this, this. F, F. Same thing for the last one. Here we can close a bit more because it's the last one, so we can make a bit more of curves, like here. Just make sure it looks good and doesn't look weird. And from here, we're gonna be selecting this little vert from here, select this other one, and pressing F in between them and creating a face to close all of this, just like this. Make sure it looks good and doesn't look weird according to the first sculpture. And I'm gonna be pressing slash on numpad, and once again, so we can see only the hands. And now we have to close these little holes in between the fingers. So I'm gonna start by the outside, like here, and then press F, here too, F, and now in between, I'm gonna select this, press F, F, and that's enough for now. Same thing for the other one, F, F. Make sure it looks good and kind of soft, you know, with a roundish transition. Same thing for the other one, F. Like this. Move it a bit down like this too. Here, here. I'm gonna be turning off the mirror modifier just for now because you're not gonna be needing this right now. I'm gonna be selecting this little edge here, move it around like this and rotate. And here we have to close these little parts with this one. So I'm gonna be creating an edge in between these here, pressing F. And we have this little face right here to close, but we don't have enough edges to close it. I don't want it to close it like this because this is gonna be kind of broken. Our faces have to have around 3 or 4 edges. I recommend to always use 4, but you can also use 3 sometimes. So I'm gonna be pressing Alt 8 so we can see the whole body. And here we have 2 more vertices. So I'm gonna be creating one more loop cut up here. Press 2, enter, enter once again, and now we can close it by pressing F, like this. Gonna move it around to make sure it looks nice, like this. And now we're gonna be doing the same thing for the rest of this little hole here. So I'm gonna be selecting this, and this, press F, this, and this, F. Here we don't have, oh, actually we do have, I'm gonna be selecting this whole loop, pressing G twice and move around like this. Create one more loop cut here, enter, enter, and then select this little edge, F, 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 and now it's fixed. Move it around, making sure it looks nice. And now this last hole here is gonna be the same thing. Now we have to adjust the new edges just a bit so we can get something a bit more smooth and with a nice transition in a way that it doesn't look weird. If you start to think that you're gonna have problems with too many edges, we can select a whole loop by pressing Alt and then select the whole loop and then delete dissolve edges. This may solve the problem because it's gonna be deleting the extra loop cuts in a way that's not gonna be affecting the mesh in a bad way. Now I'm just gonna make sure to make everything smooth and have a nice transition. I recommend you to do the same. Like this little part here, I don't want it to be like that, so I'm gonna be fixing by moving it around like this. And basically just gonna be moving around so we can fix it. I think this is okay. I'm gonna be creating one more loop cut right here to have a bit more of polygons, so it's gonna be make things a bit easier when I'm gonna be animating it. Move around, and I'm gonna be pressing A, M, and by distance. So if we have any extra verses, it's gonna be deleting it and avoiding trouble in the future. Now for the joints of the fingers, we're gonna be doing the same thing as we did with the thumb. I'm gonna select the whole loop by pressing Alt and selecting the loop like this. And to select more loops, we're gonna be pressing Shift and then Alt again like this and select all of them. Then we're gonna be pressing Ctrl B to create a bit more of lines in between so we can have more polygons. So it's gonna be making things easier for the rig part because we need to have a bit more polygons around the joint so we can bend better and move around better in a more natural way. So we're almost finished. I'm just gonna be making a few little details that I want to create. Like I'm gonna be adding a loop cut here and then moving this like this. Same thing here. Same thing here. This hand is looking kind of fat for some reason. I'm going to be selecting this face, turn on the proportionality, move it around like this. I'm going to be creating one little detail here on the wrist. You don't need to do it. It's just my art style and what I want to do. Like the little detail of the bone of this little part. And we are finished with the hand, to be honest. I think this is all. It's pretty clean. It's a bit confusing because hands in general are confusing, especially this one. This is extremely confusing. I want mine to be something more simple like this, which is a basic and easy hand. And I think this is all. And now, that means that we are finished with the whole retopology of the whole body of our character. This is the final result. It has fewer polygons, making the whole mesh much lighter, cleaner, but keeping the same shape. And now I'm gonna be selecting this little object. I'm gonna rename this to Felix Retopology. Now, one little thing. The first sculpture that we created, do you remember when we created the blocking and then the first sculpture that we were using as base for the retopology? You can delete everything of the first sculpture if you want. We gotta keep only the new mesh with the new retopology. The old one, you can delete it if you want. I am not going to delete it, at least not now. I'm gonna be keeping it but hidden like this. And then we're gonna be starting to create the eyes, the teeth, tongue, and maybe some other details like eyebrows in the next video. So this is all for this video. We are finished with the hands, and with that we finish the whole process of creating the retopology of our character. In the next video we're gonna be creating the eyes, the eyebrows, the teeth, and also the tongue. So stay tuned because our character is gonna start taking form as a real human. For now, this is just his body with his arms, head, and everything. And we're gonna start doing the other stuff in the next video. So, I hope this was useful and easy to understand. I hope you got something similar to my model, but of course following your style. And that's all for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you have any doubts, you can comment down here. I'm gonna be trying to answer you all. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye!